Okay, this is continuing the corrections for the test. This is Unit 9, Part B, or the second part, where I'm going to start on number 13. If you need the numbers before number 13 for Unit 9, that's 1, 2, and 3, 10, 11, and 12, you'll need to look at Part A. So this is number 13, and it said that we're supposed to solve using the quadratic equation by finding a square root. So our goal here is to get this part by itself so I can take the square root of the whole thing. If I have that part by itself and I take the square root, I'm going to be left with x minus 3. But I can't do that till I get rid of this 3 here. So let's do that right now. And so I'm going to divide everything by 3. This is what a lot of people forgot to do. They try to square root first. You got to divide by 3, so x minus 3 squared is by itself. Now I can square root. I'll change that to this. And you know I want plus and minus because I'm square rooting it. And so I get x minus 3 equals, well, the square root of 8 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. That's a 2. So this is plus or minus 2 root 2. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. X equals 3 plus root 2, plus 2 root 2, excuse me, or minus 2 root 2. And I've got the answer there. It's that quick and simple. Okay, number 14 is almost the same. It's 5 times x plus 4 squared. Okay. Oops, that's a big mess. Squared, and then plus 60 equals 0. So you could move the 60 first and then 60 to the other side and then divide by 5, or you can divide by 5 first. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to get x plus 4 all squared plus 12 equals 0. Subtract 12 from both sides. X plus 4 squared equals negative 12. Now I'm going to square root both sides. Remember the plus or minus. X plus 4 equals, well, the square root of negative 12 is I, because that's the square root of negative 1, times the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, and that's a 2. So this ends up being plus or minus 2i root 3. Now I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. X equals negative 4 plus or minus 2i root 3. Remember, the square root of negative 1 is I. There's our answer. And the next one is number 15 for Unit 9, and it says you need to solve the quadratic equation by completing the square. So it's always easier to complete the square if there's a 1 in front. So I'm going to move everything. Oh, this is supposed to be an x here. I think I forgot the x. Yeah, now we're in good shape. And so I'm going to divide everything by 6 because I notice everything's divisible by 6. I get x squared minus 6x minus 2 equals 0. How about I add 2 to both sides? Minus 6x equals 2. Now I'm going to have to find half of 6. Half of 6. Well, it turns out half of 6 is negative 3. So I know I want to do that. But in order to do that, I have to add 9 here. Because now this follows the binomial squared, where x minus 3 times x minus 3 is this right here. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now I can take the square root. So I get x minus 3 equals plus or minus root 11. So add 3 add 3, x equals 3 plus or minus root 11. There's my answer, and I nailed it shut right there. Okay, and we'll get another one here, number 16. Number 16, same thing, solve the quadratic equation by completing the square. It was 5x squared plus 15x plus 65 equals 0. I'm going to right away divide by 5. I notice 5 goes into everything. I get x squared plus 3x plus 13 equals 0. Subtract 13 from both sides. X squared plus 3x, I'm going to leave space there, equals negative 13. Half of 3 is 3 over 2. So I'm going to go plus 3 over 2 squared. So I'm going to add 3 over 2 all squared. Okay, so that's going to end up being x plus 3 over 2, that binomial squared, equals, well, 3 over 2 squared is 9 over 4. So I'm going to have minus 13 plus 9 over 4. And it turns out 13 is actually the number 39. Excuse me, my mistake. Negative 13 is negative 52 over 4. And I'm going to have to add these together. Okay, I'm going to add those together, and when I do that, I get negative 43 over 4, x plus 3 over 2, all squared. I'm going to square root both sides. Don't forget the plus or minus. Oh, I'm going to have to split that up here, so I'm going to work on that other thing there in a second. So I've got square root of negative 43 over 4. I split this up. This was split up right here. And I'm going to get I root 43. Turns out root 43 is prime and root 4 is 2. So I'm going to get x plus 3 over 2 equals I root 43 over 2 plus or minus. I'm going to get my answer right here is x equals negative 3 over 2 plus or minus I root 43 over 2. There's my answer there. If you want to, you can put them, that's in standard form. If you want, you can put them all over 2, but I would just leave it like that, and there's your answer for number 16. Okay, so for number 17, it wants the quadratic solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So you have to know this. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And if you don't know that, memorize it. It's never going away, so you might as well get used to it. So in this problem here, we have x squared plus 8x equals negative 20. And I'd like to make it look like this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So add 20 to both sides. There we are here. Now I know a equals 1, b equals 8, c equals 20. So x equals negative. Now I'm going to kill all the variables and I'll put the parentheses in so I don't worry about double negatives. So I'm going to put those numbers in. A is 1 and 1, B is 8 and 8, and C is 20. If you do some work on this, you get x equals negative 8 plus or minus square root of 64 minus 80 all over 2. Well, that's negative 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 16 all over 2. Well, I remember this. Square root of negative 16 is I square root 16, which ends up being 4I. So I'm going to change this to 4I. So I get negative 8 plus or minus 4I divided by 2, and it turns out, luck of the thing, 2 divides into 8 4 times, 2 divides into 4 2 times, and so I really get this answer, 4 with a negative on it, plus or minus 2I. There's my solution to number 17. Number 18, I'll do that quickly. It's very similar, same kind of thing going on. I have 3x squared minus 5 equals x squared plus 6x. I want to use a quadratic formula, so I need to get it in ax squared plus bx plus c form like I did in the previous one. So I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides. I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. I'm going to end up with 0 here. On this side I'm going to end up with 2x squareds minus 6x's minus 5. So my A is 2, my B is negative 6, my C is negative 5. Okay, so I'm going to put those in here. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So negative 6, negative 6. I'm going to have 2 and 2, and I'm going to have negative 5 here. So I'm going to do some work on that, do some simplifying. 6 plus or minus 36. These two make a positive. So I'm going to have positive 20, 40 there for that one, all over 4. Let me clean some of this up a little bit there. So that's 6 plus or minus root 76 over 4. So let's think about what root 76 is. Root 76 is root 4 times root 19, which is 2 root 19. So let's write that here. That's a 70. So 6 plus or minus 2 root 19 over 4. And again, we got lucky in the sense that you can divide this by 2 and you get 2. If you divide this by 2, you get 3. If you divide this by 2, you get 1. So it actually simplifies down to 3 plus or minus root 19. And you can all divide by 2, or you can divide 3 by 2 separate from the root 19 divided by 2. And there's your answer. Okay, I'm going to stop and I'll do a third version of this. So let me stop this and upload it.